Well, I'm very glad to be at the X conference here, and this is the fourth year, I believe, in 2008. I've attended one other, and I think the second one, and meet old friends and make new friends. I'm Scott Jones, and I run a small nonprofit organization out of Kerrville, Texas. The acronym is PEACE Incorporated, and that stands for Peace and Emergency Action Coalition for Earth. And what I am primarily involved in is we've developed a program that is modeled on the Pentagon's war room and the software that they have to use that. I have worked in a number of war rooms in my 30-year naval career, and so I know how efficient this system can be. And so without asking, I have borrowed that model and we have transformed it. The war room becomes the peace room, and we are developing software that we will give to any college or university that wants to use it. The University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, as the first U.S. university to adopt the program, and they have built a peace room.
So you actually have a computer program that instead of modeling wartime scenarios can model.
We are developing that software.
Wow.
And that will do peace gaming,
Right.
in addition.
Well, it should be able to put, it makes sense, you should be able to put the same parameters that you would for logistical operations.
Yeah, we just turned that model upside down.
Oh my God.
I love it.
And and in peace work, to be very honest with you on this, when I got into that, I had been very much involved in the UFO field before then, and I thought, well, the giggle factor is so high still in this that I feel that I might not be as efficient and as effective in recruiting colleges and university if I also do that. Now, of course, I know that anybody who wants to Google me on, they're going to find out what a weird guy I really am. But either they haven't done that, and I suspect they all did, but they said, well, we'll watch him, and if he doesn't disappear and reappear or something weird like that, we'll see if we can work with him. But then I decided a couple of years ago that, I wasn't being true to myself. The phenomena that we're here for is very important. And while we know something about it, I suspect that we don't know what is really important. But what I think we do know and recognize and honor is important enough to take it very seriously. And when what we call disclosure takes place, if it takes place by accident, for example,
Unplanned.
it would be just chaotic, because, it can't be contained now, not with the World Wide Web.
Right. It's just a matter of time.
The accident that happens in West Virginia might as well as happen in Zambia or South Africa, because they're going to get the word and the pictures just in a matter of minutes, unless the Air Force can get in there and cover it up and drag it away, and then people are going to say, what the blazes was that? And then they will say to themselves, what does that mean to me? And so disclosure is, in my view, is to prepare people for that. And it can be the most destabilizing thing that the world has to face, because anyone who is educated, at least in the Western tradition, knows the consequences of a superior technical culture impacting on another culture with less technology. The clash of cultures is just, it's the central theme of written history now. And the lower technical culture does not survive. And so anyone who thinks about this, when they're viewing an accident, has to feel a little fear in their stomach, So, I think it is a very humane thing to do, to work to come up with a plan that will persistently introduce them to this potential of a time when we will meet another culture that is highly superior by a factor of what? 100,000?
Yeah, really.
Because they're 100,000 years older than we are.
Right.
And, people might joke, well, why does that guy have such a big head? And the answer might be because his brain is so developed
Because
that
they're
it
using
had
it.
to make room for him.
Yeah.
And think about that, But, they are who they are, and when in fact we know so little about them. I use a term that I learned from a friend of mine, Dr. Charles Tart, a now professor emeritus from University of California, Davis, called cultural trance. And I am such a perfect example of my culture, And I look through my eyes as I was brought up. And so I see things the way I was taught you see things. But that frequently is not the way 6.5 billion other people see them,
Sure.
They have their own cultural trance, and that's a challenge. Now I'm just talking about Earth. What degree of cultural trance and what is that like for what I call the visiting others? I haven't the vaguest idea. That will be an interesting challenge,
In terms of how they view us?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I suspect they view us as we really are collectively, a pretty violent and dangerous group of folks down here.
Primates.
Yeah, yeah,
One's with clothes and one without clothes.
yeah. And, this is a question that a lot of us have thought about is, I wonder how we are viewed by the people that we have been in contact with on a continuum of primitive to civilized group, I suspect that we're looked at as pretty close to the primitive end as far as spiritual development is concerned. Now, technically, we're probably, lower than where they are, but, we're not unsophisticated as far as technology is concerned. And I think that's why they're paying attention to us now.
I think the best quote I've ever heard was that our technology has surpassed our humanity.
Yes.
And do you think that perhaps the interaction of the governments of the world with the ETs and the exchange of technology may have accelerated that situation in the sense that we have really gone beyond the evolutionary slow process that would have allowed us to mature enough to be able to deal with a lot of the things that we're dealing with today?
Well, that's a complicated formula of, what I guess simplistically what I heard is that have our technology led us more than we're really capable of handling? In the case of all classes of weapons of mass destruction, I think the answer is absolutely yes, because we literally have had for years the capability of ending civilization, but yet that seems not to be recognized to the point where there is a absolute consensus that let's get rid of these things.
Sure.
Because, while I can say my heart is pure and I will never use them, still I'm not so smart that there couldn't be an accident. I mean a genuine accident where it doesn't make any difference what my intention is.
Sure.
We lose it.
And there have been many instances where that almost happened between
Yeah.
us and the Russians, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time probably before it happens between Pakistan or India or something like
Yeah.
that.
This particular conference is dedicated to John Mack. The first time I met John was 1987 at Esalen Institute out in California. And the conference we were at, he was invited primarily because of his really strong feelings about doing something about nuclear weapons. And at that time, I don't think he had any interest about abductions or any knowledge about it. But John was a tiger on that, and he wanted to talk about the psychological consequences of even the existence of nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't been brought up here, and of course it may not be important.
But
I admired him for that, and then doubly admired him when he took the courage and showed the courage that he had to do what he did at Harvard.
I saw out of Boston, so I kind of watched what he was doing when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And he did an interview with some children in South Africa. 62 children in South Africa reported that they all saw this UFO type craft
Mm-hmm.
come down and interact with the children.
Mm-hmm.
And he interviewed the children, which
Of
is an
course.
interesting aspect
Yeah.
because you just don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
That a professional, especially someone from Harvard, would come and put his reputation on the line to talk to these children about what they had seen, and they all reported the same thing.
Yes, but if you think about that, we would say it was the genius of John to do that, but actually it makes sense because I think most adults will concede that more children are more honest in their sweetness and naivete.
Sure.
If they say, this is what I saw, you don't say, well, what's the agenda? Why is that person saying that? You just almost have to take the kids at their word.
And he pointed out that the South African television stations and media don't really cover that. So
Mm-hmm.
you can not necessarily rule out the cultural,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
maybe impression that it could have made on them. Those children really didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting that the children commented that they described the typical grays with the black eyes, and when John asked the children, basically, was there any interaction? What was said? The children responded that they aliens, grays, whatever you want to call them, said that we were destroying our Earth, and that that something bad was going to happen to us
Mhm.
if we didn't change
Yeah.
the way we. And this is before this is I
Yeah.
think in the mid '90s, maybe early '90s. So it was really before the whole environmental movement
Mhm.
became what it is today with
Yeah.
everything. And it's interesting that he was way out there, way back then.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to try and catch up to what he was doing, and find the next John Mack, so to speak,
Yeah.
to do what he did.
Mhm. Well, I have designed, I have gotten back into this field. I left it and was out for about 9 years, primarily working in global peace efforts, visiting universities and colleges around the world and presenting an approach. And the approach is, quite frankly, to engage the future leaders of the world as during their college and university years. Not that all the leaders come from education, but a large number of them do. And to challenge them to vest some of their intellectual energy during this period of education into, most of them are there because they have a vision of what they want to do later in life to make their mark, to express their genius. Well, I want to challenge them also at that time. Wouldn't it be nice if you could also increase the odds that you will have a world in which to express your genius? And so think about that, and what can you do? And not just in college or university, but to take this vision of protecting yourself, your future family, and Mother Earth, so that someday we will all have safe air to breathe and water to drink.
I have a quick question.
And then I'm going to bump
It
in.
might be a little bit off base a little bit, but my father and his family members were involved in a lot of special forces type stuff, and I've had my own experiences with UFOs, and one of the biggest concerns that I have is that the possibility that our government or another government could possibly deceive us into thinking that the next big threat is going to be the aliens from out of space, and that this
Mhm.
could be used against us. The technology that our government has could
Yes.
be used. How much weight do you put in that? Do you see that as a palpable concern
Well,
that we should be
I
concerned
put
about?
some weight into it because that is a possible scenario. I certainly hope that this is not a scenario that someone will try to play out, because it is almost the last straw. One beyond that will be, we're all doomed because we know we're going to be hit by this particular space vehicle, and so, live it up, folks. You've got 2.5 years to go. But Werner von Braun brought that particular scenario up with a friend of mine, that he predicted that what would be the next big threats to bring up, and after terrorism, when that has played out, then it will be the threat from aliens. And so someone may want to play that card, but that's all the more reason for us to work hard now to bring disclosure up into the consciousness of people. And not that there isn't a potential threat from the visiting others, because I truly believe that we have no idea about the diversity of the cultures that are out there.
Sure.
And I don't know which ones we are really working with. And
it's a good point. Just because we have good guys and bad guys on Earth, it's not right to assume that we won't have good guys and bad guys.
Yeah, I have a feel that there are some real buccaneers
Yeah.
out there bopping around in the space, and they don't give a fig about things and other. And so we need to be prudent, and when disclosure is formally made, the president or whomever makes it in this country needs to reassure the citizens, because just opening this up is going to open up a box that can never be closed. And that,
The ultimate Pandora's box.
and everybody will look at that box and see what they see. And some will see love and hope and relief from all sorts of problems, and others will see nothing but woe in there.